They did the same thing at President Kennedy's funeral almost 60 years ago. Were you here then? Right where you're standing, darling, Nana said, wiping her eyes with a handkerchief. I remember it like it was yesterday, just as tragic as today. I wasn't alive when JFK was president, but Nana had told me that it had been a time of great hope in the country because of its young leader, and that hearing of his assassination had felt like a kick in the gut. I'd felt the same way when Bree called me to say that Katharine Grant had collapsed in the Oval Office and died at age 47, leaving behind a husband, twin 10-year-old daughters, and a stunned and grieving nation. President Grant had been among the rarest of creatures in American politics, someone who actually managed to bring opposing sides together for the benefit of the country, and she'd done it by sheer force of her empathetic personality, her piercing brilliance, and her self-deprecating wit. A former U.S. Senator from Texas, Grant had won the White House in a landslide, and there'd been a real feeling of optimism in the country, a belief that the gridlock had ended, that politicians on both sides of the aisle were finally going to put their differences aside and work for the common good. And they had, for 368 days. 72 hours after celebrating her first year in office, President Grant had been meeting with her military advisors when she suddenly complained of dizziness and seemed confused, then fell to the floor behind her desk. She died within moments. Her doctors were stunned. The late president had been in top physical condition, and she had passed a rigorous physical exam with flying colors not 2 months before. But the pathologists at Bethesda Naval Hospital said that Grant had succumbed to a fast-growing tumor that had enveloped her internal carotid artery, essentially interrupting the blood flow to most of her brain. No one could have saved her. So there was a real sense of shared loss and broken hope the morning of her funeral. As her cortege approached us, the mourners on both sides of Constitution Avenue turned sadly quiet. Damon helped Nana Mama to her feet. Bree and I came to attention, and I had to fight against the emotion that built in my throat as Grant's coffin rolled by and the black riderless horse pranced and reared in the bitter cold air. But what really hit me was the sight of the limousine that trailed the black horse. I couldn't see them, but I knew that the late president's husband and daughters were inside. I remembered how I'd felt when my first wife died tragically, leaving me lost, angry, and alone with a baby boy to care for. Those were the worst days of my life, when I thought I'd never be right again. My heart broke for the first family as they passed. I blinked back tears watching the drum corps march by, eyes straight ahead, the cadence of the funeral beat never wavering. "Can we go now?" Ali asked. "I can't feel my knees." "Not before we all hold hands and say a prayer for our country and that good woman's soul," Nana Mama said, and she held her mittened hands out to us. Part 1. 5 days later. Chapter 1. Snow fell as Sean Lawler slipped into a narrow alley in Georgetown. A ruddy-skinned man with a salt-and-pepper beard and unruly hair. Lawler was dressed in dark clothes, gloves, and a snap-brimmed cap with the air flaps down. As he moved deeper into the alley, he knew he was leaving tracks in the snow, but didn't care. Forecasts were calling for 6 inches before dawn, and he planned to be finished and gone long before the storm ended. Lawler padded to the rear gate of a beautiful old brick townhouse that faced 35th Street. After a long, slow look around, he climbed the gate and crossed a small terrace to a door he'd picked earlier in the evening after bypassing the alarm system. It was 4:15 in the morning. He had half an hour at most. Lawler shut the door quietly behind him. He stood a moment, listening intently. Hearing nothing to disturb him, he brushed off snow while waiting for his eyes to adjust. Then he put blue surgical booties over his boots and walked down a hallway to